beautiful Tuesday morning. It all stopped snowing up here in Ontario, but we got another storm coming in, and we got a storm for you right now. How does a national restaurant chain deal with supply chain challenges? How do they look forward to the future, and how can that help you in your sales? That's the conversation we're going to talk about today. To the HPLS podcast. Live, relevant, and high performance information, conversations, and education weekly. Good morning, everybody. DJ, good morning to you, my friend. And today we've got a really, really cool special treat for you. So we've got John Brewer from CKE Restaurants. That's like the Hardee's, a lot of these restaurant chains. You're a burrito chain as well, right? There's a burrito chain in Texas involved in your mix, right, John?
We are dual branded in some restaurants, yes.
Yeah, very cool. So John's going to come in today and talk to us about some of the challenges they're facing in supply chain, obviously, but more importantly, and more where the conversation is going to direct is how can you, professional sales rep, take some of this information and help you see what's happening on the proverbial other side of the fence? Because I think, John, more and more today as a sales rep, you gotta understand what's going on in your world. When I first, and I know when you and I first got on a conversation before, when we were scheduling this call, it was, 28 years ago when I first started in the industry. It was very simple. We're Canadian and we have backhauls, and you're in the US and you have freight that moves to Canada, and we're the Canadian expert. And that was the sell. There was, probably for the first 15 years of my career, I never knew anybody that knew very much about the industry at all. Like it wasn't, and I guess, kudos to companies like Freight Waves and stuff like that have really, in supply chain today, and, all those magazines that have really taken supply chain and put them on the front lines. But we never really, for lack of a better term, and I don't mean to sound like an arsehole, but I didn't really care about anybody that what they were going through. It was how much commission can I make? And, truth, right? Truth is the truth. And today it's understanding what you're going through, and can we, the professional sales rep, really help you? And if we can't, let you go about your day. What are some of the things you're seeing in today's market?
From a challenge standpoint, we have, if you're looking at intermittent supply, it's almost random at times. It's not one thing consistently. You're looking at that. You're looking at delays in deliveries. Some of the chains out there experiencing up to 3 days delay. You've got shortage of drivers, shortage of warehouse labor. It's a challenge every day. It's the wild, wild west out there. I mean, I get up every morning and I don't know what I'm going to be going after today. So you have to deal with them, and you have to shore up where you can. And you really got to think outside the box, probably now more than ever. Logistics and supply chain and distribution have always had to think outside the box with anything that Mother Nature or the federal government threw at us. But it's more prevalent than ever. I mean, you've really got to think. If you look at like Target or Lowe's, where they're basically renting their own ships, and this is not food product, but it's thinking outside the box. And it was funny. I read an article on it, and it started out as a joke. In one of their board meetings, somebody just made a joke out of it, and next thing you know, they're renting vessels to bring their equipment, bring their product across the pond. So it's stuff that you've never thought about or that you joked about that now is becoming serious. Mm-hmm. So that's really where you got to go, and that's what we look for. From a shoring up standpoint, multi-sourcing. Getting several vendors to handle, one product or commodity. That way, if one goes down, then you got a couple others. We've actually stepped up with our vendors who are struggling from a logistics standpoint, and we're actually helping them find capacity. So, kind of partnering that way. We're working with our distributors to help them If they have any type of a stock product that is doesn't impact our brand, like napkins or salt and pepper packets or whatever, we're looking at that. If we can use that, and then that way it frees up real estate in their warehouse. Plus, they have the item in there because they have multiple customers drawing off of that. So we don't have to worry about getting it in. It comes in with the rest of it. So it's just a lot of different things going on right now. One of the things that I'm kind of looking at is, our vendors, the PO will come in late after the route trucks have left, or it'll be short. And we have some of our stores, about 50% of our stores are on once a week delivery. Well, they can't wait a whole week to get their French fries. That's not going to work. So we've had to get extremely creative and finding ways to get product to them outside their normal stock delivery. And that can be a challenge, especially in some of the where our DCs are. Some of those markets just do not have courier capacity, let alone refrigerated courier capacity.
Mm-hmm.
So we've done some kind of what I call hub and spokes, where you will have a specific franchisee who has so many restaurants in a given area, and we'll drop it at we'll drop inventory at 2 or 3 of those, and then they'll deliver it to the other restaurants on their own, because it's easier for me to find 1, 2, or 3 trucks than it is to find 25 trucks.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's what we're looking at. I really expect you to see some disruption in that refrigerated expedited market this year. The thing I like about this industry, and I've always liked about this industry, we are resilient, we are entrepreneurial, we are resourceful. Fuel goes through the roof. What do? We put wide tires on the trailers, skirts underneath them, put APUs on the back of the tractors. We figured it out, and that's what I love about this industry. The people in here are innovative. They're creators. They don't let anything get them down. It may get them down for a few minutes, but it ain't going to keep them down. And that's no different here. I mean, the pandemic's obviously lasted a lot longer than we had anticipated, but we're still going to come out, and we're still going to have some innovation come out. You're going to have some tech. You're starting to see some tech, but you're also going to have some physical stuff come out that's going to make life a lot easier, because we're going to adapt and overcome. And that's the way this industry has always been.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. Holy cow, that's powerful.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to ask you about the whole French fry situation, because I know there was, obviously with BC and all the issues, and then Japan being short on fries. And then there was also the side of it that I've actually been very curious about. And it might not be as big of an impact in the US, but in Canada, restaurants like Gordon's Food Service and stuff that serve restaurants and fast food restaurants, with all the shutdowns, they switched. When things shut down, they switched to home deliveries to try and keep revenues coming in.
Right.
Have you seen anything are you guys experience anything like that with different parts of the country that may have shutdowns, and then there's no dine-in in restaurants and employees? Because obviously you mentioned employees. I know, and again, I'm only asking from personal experience, because all of the coffee shops and restaurants around here, they actually are only, when we were able to eat in, most of them didn't even have an eat in because they couldn't find staff to fill those positions. They just stayed in drive through. Are you seeing any of that challenge, and how's that impacting yourselves and your bottom line?
It's not really impacting us per se. Our distribution partners do have some fast casual places, and they did take a hit. And they did have to pivot to some other things. I think one of them pivoted to some hospital supplies. Just to
That's a big
out.
pivot.
Yeah.
But we've been from a distribution standpoint, we really haven't been impacted. I mean, you have driver call offs and COVID protocols, and that impacts everybody. Okay, so that's just, I'm not even going to say that's the new normal, because I don't like the words new normal. But
yes, sir.
But as far as them pivoting out of that and not being able to take care of us as a company, I don't see it. One of the things that was kind of a blessing in disguise for us is we're heavy drive-through. So we're still doing business while your fast casuals are shut down or your coffee shops are shut down. We're still doing business. We're still rocking and rolling. And it really, to your point, I think a lot of QSR chains experienced that when they did open back up, they didn't have the labor to run the operation. We're not immune to that either. So you do see that. But the upside is if you're running a lot of drive-through, it doesn't take a lot of staff.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. Now I do have a question for you. With all the backups and kind of mix-ups and different items changing and being available or readily, like you said. One time it's maybe this item, and the next it's that. How, with the changing or the limiting of menus, how difficult is that to on the back end to pull off? I know that's why menus are constantly changing at the restaurants and fast food restaurants, especially, is probably lack of being able to get the product in.
Right. It's not particularly hard to manage. I mean, if you don't have the product, you don't have the product.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
yeah.
it's just kind of basic, but we try to spread as much product as we can. We don't really want any restaurants to be without any product, even if it is a reduced inventory of product. So
Mhm.
we do try to spread that out to help them out because we really don't want to lose any sales. I don't think anybody in this business wants to lose sales. We want to take care of our customers. Both Carl's Jr. and Hardee's have come across as a kind of a comfort food brand. And, I think people need more comfort now than they ever did before. So we want to be there for them, and we want to be able to serve them. So very important.
Awesome. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning,
Morning, Jeff.
Trisha. Good to see you
Morning.
here. Good to see you. So, we've got actually, John, we've got a question from Martin,
Yeah.
where he says, do you think that the supply chain crisis will eventually affect the development of shipping cooperatives, particularly with traditional competitors such as Walmart and Target, allowing them to cooperate when charting vessels from overseas? And then I apologize, but it cuts half of it off. Can restaurant chains also create these cooperatives for logistics to streamline their supply chains?
Um, in regards to the Walmart and Target, you'll probably see something very similar to that. They pull a lot of overseas. We do not have a lot of overseas products. Most of our stuff is domestic. Um, the second part of that question is kind of a flip of the coin because QSR fast casual restaurants in general are typically pretty competitive. Now, if you have a distribution partner who is serving, like say us and Wendy's and Burger King, and they will pick up several QSR chains, they may bring in a full truckload of X, whatever X is, for all those customers. So that they do load consolidation now. But they're servicing all those restaurant companies out of that one facility or that one network.
Okay. So it's not a matter of you guys collaborating. It's your supplier saying, okay, well, we got a drop for Hardee's, we got a drop for Burger King, Wendy's, that kind of stuff, and they'll do like a milk run kind of thing to drop it off to all you guys to save on their cost. But that's more of the supplier end getting creative as opposed to you guys sitting down with other chains and saying, how can we work
It would,
together?
from an inbound standpoint, inbound into the DC, they're going to pick up all the items there at that supplier. Most of our distributors manage a lot of their own freight because they want to be able to control their destiny. Um,
Mhm.
so they're going to pick up, let's say, we're half a truck and Burger King's a half a truck. They're going to pick up a full truck at the supplier and take it into the DC. And then on the back end, they also do the final mile deliveries. So it's not unusual to see how multiple concepts on a pedal run as they're delivering out to the restaurants wherever it makes logistical and geographical sense.
Got it. Now, the big question, and I'm sure a question a ton of viewers are interested in right now, is 2022. What are some of the big things, your big goals, your big mandates for 2022 that you're allowed to share?
Mm. Um, like I said, I think we're going to continue with what we're doing. It's working. It's not perfect, but there's nothing perfect out there right now. And then we're just going to be looking for different options. Like I said, part of my job is to kind of shore up the walls, if you will. If we need like refrigerated expedited capacity, then it's my job to go out and try to find that or some variation thereof. Same way with truckload capacity. We're going to continue to build our relationships and strengthen our relationships. I think what you're going to see in 22, and you saw it in 21, and you're probably going to see it moving forward, is the between distributors and shippers and carriers, you see stronger partnerships because there's not one of us out there that can do it on their own.
Yep.
So you're having conversations, what can we do to work together more than we have in the, so it's not so much as a vendor customer relationship as it is a partnership.
Yeah.
And you hear people say partnership and throw that word around a lot, but I think it's going to really resonate in this year and the years to come, because you're going to have to, basically you're going to have to work together to overcome this. It's going to take a tribe to get this done. It's too big for all of us to do it on our own.
Now, Ryan's got a question, and before I ask Ryan's question, just a follow-up question to that would be, so if a sales rep is looking to cold call you, what are some of the conversations they can have specifically to your industry that would kind of get your attention? What are some of the things they can talk about? What are some of the things they can say? What are some of the things they can ask you, John?
Well, it's, every potential client is going to be different, different heartburn points, different things keeping them up at night. I'm glad you asked this question. It's an awesome question. I've actually been kind of working on that front. I think we talked about me letting a broker in Chattanooga do some mock sales calls
Yes.
with me, and had a blast doing that. Enjoyed that immensely. It's just like you're interviewing for a job. Okay, you get in, you've got an interview coming up, and you go out and you research the company. You research it through and through so you can have an intelligent conversation about what the company does and how you can bring value to that company. If you can think a little outside the box, I'll give you an example. One of my DCs is in the Los Angeles area. I can tell you right now, outbound California truckload freight is atrocious from a rate standpoint. Maybe you have an opportunity there that you can the synergies are there, and that's just a weak example, but it is an example. When I did the mock sales pitches with the broker in Chattanooga, there was a young lady there, and she figured out my pain point without me even telling her. She was just thinking outside the box and just trying to be there. We're going to look for a partner. We're going to look for. You got to be genuine. You got to be. You got to understand. We're getting bombarded by sales calls all day long, sales emails, LinkedIn invites, yada yada yada. You got to differentiate yourself, and you got to be able to have a really good value add proposition, and you got to be able to shoot that to me. I mean, you've got seconds to get my attention because it's we're just getting slammed on the sales side. So you've got to you can't sell what everybody else is selling. You've got to sell something different.
How much has your inbound prospecting increased? Like if you were to look at percentages, 2 years ago, how many calls or emails or LinkedIn communications you get a week compared to today?
That's a little skewed because I'm more active on LinkedIn now than I was a couple of years ago. So, it's probably a little higher, but it's interesting because right now it's a carrier's market, but it's just interesting that the people are out there cold calling a lot more than they would have in the past.
So you find that like from a 2018 carrier market when ELD hit to today, you're seeing a dramatic increase in the cold calling and in the outbound prospecting, whereas you feel like 2018, it was kind of like, well, we got all the business, so just everything going status quo.
I wouldn't say dramatic. I would say increased.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So Ryan's got a question here. He says, with the ever-changing market conditions, how did that affect your RFP process, if at all, and going to a spot market?
Man. Well, they're hitting the nail on the head all around today. So the thing with the RFP process, used to be, pre-COVID, you probably do a 12-month bid. Not a lot of fluctuation there, unless a natural disaster occurred, something like that. Now, we do a little 6-month RFP, and even sometimes that gets volatile at 6 months. So the market's constantly fluctuating out there. Um, we tend to find ourselves in the spot market a lot more than I want us to be. But given the nature of our business and the level of service we need, that's just something we have to do. Again, I would go back to leaning on those relationships and those partnerships and really pushing that and helping people to understand, this pandemic, although it's been a long time, is not going to be here forever. And this business has always been cyclical. So it's, the wheel will turn, and you're going to need shippers during the dry times as well. So
Mhm.
that's just something that, you need to be forward thinking and forward visioning um, on this situation. But RFPs, static rates are just a challenge right now.
So, John, when you say forward thinking, big question for me at this point with a lot of customers and shippers and manufacturers is, are the plans you put in place today plans that you want to continue down the road, or is it just kind of like, okay, here's a band-aid, just put it on for now, and we'll come to a real solid conclusion going down the road? Or your plans for 2022, the things you put in place, like are these strategic for long term, or is it more of a short term, just get past the eye of the storm, if you will?
I think it's a hybrid of the two. I think
Okay.
number one, you need to have a solid foundation to build anything on. So you do have some key principles and key metrics that are going to stay bedrock to your operation. But you also need to be flexible and be able to take course corrections and pivot and be resourceful when you have to be, because the market's still fluctuating. I mean, I honestly don't believe there's anybody out there who has a clear crystal ball as to what the market's going to do for the next 12 to 18 months. So you need to be able to kind of bob and weave with it and work through it. You're going to have to work through the small skirmishes, but at the end of the day, you're trying to win the war.
And are you looking to your logistics suppliers to stay ahead of the change curves as much as possible and kind of keep you updated as well on things that are happening in the market, or are you doing that yourself?
It's a little bit of both.
Hmm.
It's a personal decision for me. I've done this for a very long time. I've always felt like the shipper needed to be extremely educated. You're going into a negotiation process, pandemic or no pandemic. You need to know all the ins and the outs and the ups and the downs. I listen to Freight Waves, obviously. There's a few publications out there. I'll tell you right now, the Morgan Stanley Freight Index is my go-to time and time again, just to get a good barometer of what's going on out there. I do talk to my carriers and my brokers, and I ask them for information. I do have some that send me publications that they come across. And
Hmm.
then I take that information and actually go into my supply chain department, and I educate our staff internally as to what's going on out there, so that they don't, our buyers don't get surprised. They know what's going on. I sent something off the other day about I think the average reefer rate was like $4.88 a mile. I was like, this is crazy. So anyway, but yeah, I'm a firm believer in education. Actually, to that point, I'm glad you brought that up, because used to be we would keep kind of that information in the supply chain department area, and now, because we have a lot of field operations people out there, and everybody's wanting information because, when am I going to get this product? When am I going to get that product? We're actually educating our field ops people. I'm meeting with them on a monthly basis to give them a state of the union of the industry, as well as
Nice.
as well as how our distributors are performing to their KPIs with the challenges they're having to face. So we bumped up our education 100% this year. We've also increased our communication to our franchisees and our company operators, because if we don't have the product, communication and information become extremely critical, because they're trying to manage their day to day. Okay, and if you're out of something, it's going to make it hard. So they need to know what's coming. They need accurate, clear data. They need to know, and we've really stepped that up this year. probably more so than the entire time I've been with the company, which is be 5 years in March. So this is like full court press. We're talking to our partners, we're talking to our franchisees, our company operators. We're showing them what we got, we're showing them industry data, we're educating them. It's just like you said earlier about supply chain. I mean, nobody knew what a supply chain was until 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Literally.
You
And
know,
one thing that we so a few things. One thing that I've found through conversations from the beginning of November till the end of December, I was on this major, like, I want to know what's going on in people's heads philosophy. And a lot of companies never believed how much money they can lose when their supply chain screws like goes haywire.
oh, yeah.
It's been such an eye opener. I love the fact that you said we're communicating with our team. Yesterday, I was at a local snowmobile shop trying to look for a part. And I walked in, and there had to have been 30 sleds on the showroom floor, all with sold signs on them. Right. So I'm at the service desk, and I said, just a question. I mean, we're in the middle of a blizzard. You got like 30 sleds out there that are sold. Are these people not coming to pick these up? He goes, oh, no. They're like 80%. I go, 80% sold? He goes, no, 80% ready to go. What are you talking about? He goes, well, none of them have chips for the dash, so they don't run. And then I go, really? He goes, oh, yeah, phones have been blowing up today with people wanting their sleds. And it's funny because my next thing I said to him was, well, do you not communicate with them that, like, hey, listen, I know we got a snowstorm coming, and if you spent 2 hours making phone calls, it would save you 7 hours today of phones ringing with pissed off customers.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I never, and this was the manager of the service department. He goes, I never really even thought of that. He goes, you're right. He goes, all of my guys, like literally the mechanics are answering phones because they're trying to field so many calls from people coming in. I go, like, you got to educate people on this stuff, because I'll tell you right now, if I spent $25,000 on a sled and I'm not getting answers, like, I'm going to be pissed, and your reputation long term is going to be impacted. So I love the fact that you're actually educating everyone in your community around you.
Right.
Exactly.
We
Oh,
got
yeah.
Trish comes back. John, we need to talk. Partnerships are crucial. Trisha,
Yeah.
look at you going right for the jugular this
I
morning.
like it.
Yeah, I like it. Way to go.
Good morning,
Good morning, Gary. Good morning.
And then
Jeff is saying,
drop Jeff's.
this is the key, John. You're speaking my language. You must have sincere collaboration amongst key stakeholders to reach goals and objectives. 100, and I think that's
100%.
And I agree, John. You said that so much, and I wanted to touch on that with Jeff. And Jeff, I'm glad you pointed that out. You talked about partnership and about collaboration and about teamwork and about even being different companies, a team. That's the only way we win through this. That is the
Right.
only way we can absolutely win through this. I mean, you clearly you've been in this for a while, and that shows why you're so successful in it, and you're running such an amazing team. But the collaboration's key for sure. We have to.
And if your
Doesn't matter what company
department's
you
not
work for.
educated, then you're not all on the same page.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
and that I think is part of
Yes.
the biggest part of all of this is that education piece. Because if, John, so if you're educated and you understand what the market's happening, and then somebody on the other end doesn't, it creates this miscommunication. And at least if you all understand what the baseline is, and okay, here's the baseline, here's the goal, here's still the mission for 2022. This is how we're going to act, guys. And this is like this. These are some strategies, and not to mention, you get some pretty serious brainstorming meetings, and some people that you never thought would have ideas come out with some pretty cool ideas. Like what you said at the beginning, a joke in a boardroom has turned to
Yeah.
cheaper and faster delivery of product in today's market.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. It's that's the only way we're going to get through this, guys. And I've promoted partnerships my entire career. They've saved my bacon more than once. I've saved their bacon more than once. That's you just build those relationships, and as long as everybody's kind of watching everybody else's six, making sure we got everything buttoned down, it helps. It works.
Yes,
You got to weather the storm. You might as well have a full crew. The interesting thing you brought up was, when we started educating internally, and even our field ops staff, it was just like, the public, when you started talking about supply chains and why there's no toilet paper, and people started learning about supply chains, and they were amazed at what we have to go through just every day just to get a box of fries from the distributor to the store.
Mhm.
They would, all these people, and again, it's the industry that I'm really proud of. I'm really proud of the people, men and women in this industry. Is
Yes,
we've been behind the scenes making all this happen for all these years, and nobody else knew. And then
Mhm.
it took a pandemic to pull the curtain back, and then you
Mhm.
see the man there behind the green curtain just wearing it out.
the
And
wizard.
these people, it was a jaw drop moment for them. They couldn't believe
Mhm.
complexity and all this stuff just moving around, and they never knew it because
No.
the toilet paper was always on the shelf. There wasn't a
Mhm.
reason to know, or
Yeah, and they could grab 5 bags of it, and then when they come back tomorrow, the shelf's full again.
It's just,
exactly.
And
it's
like, this
magic.
is cool.
It's magic, right?
It's
It's
it's the
funny.
toilet
When
paper
I
thing.
got addicted to this industry, literally addicted, I was about 3 months in the industry, and I brought in a customer called Plusmark Incorporated. So Plusmark and Clio Wrap, 28 years ago, were the 2 major distributors of wrapping paper in North America. And I remember Doug Derryberry, great man out of Afton, Tennessee, awesome man, says, "Are you ready? This is what it is." And it was like 10 trucks a day for 9 weeks. And and you're talking a guy 3 months in the industry, like it was all hands on deck. And I remember my company at the time didn't have a warehouse, didn't have anything. And all of a sudden, we needed to find a warehouse. My vice president, my business partner, and I are hand bombing truckloads of wrapping paper off. We're working till 4:30 in the morning. I'm sleeping under my desk, waking up in the morning, doing my sales, all this for like 3 weeks. And I remember I walked into Walmart, and the stuff that I delivered, no problem. The stuff, oh no, this is all how this works. It's all
Yeah,
good. My
yeah.
dog goes nuts every
Yeah,
day.
I'm surprised
Um,
Stanley isn't going now.
I know why I locked him out of the room.
Oh, did you?
I walked into Walmart and I'm watching people in droves grab this wrapping paper. And that was for me was like, oh my God. But
Wow.
one thing I did realize is exactly what you said is, do they even realize like what it took to get that wrapping paper into that store? And I don't think we know, but not very many. If you
No.
worked in the industry, and even if you were superficially in the industry, I still don't think up until this period we really had a full view of what it takes. I mean, if you were in depth, I mean, we didn't have a warehouse, so it was like I had to hand bomb the trucks, and and all that. And that for me was the selling point. That was like, wow, there's so much more behind the scenes here, and we take so much for granted as consumers, where we can open this up, click on an app, and say I want this tomorrow at and Prime delivers it tomorrow, and we still do, I think, because I think as people, as consumers, it's like, okay, I understand there's issues, but I still want it tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah. Where's my stuff? Oh,
Exactly.
wonderful. There's issues. Where's my stuff? No.
Yeah, Jeff says, "Boom, John."
Absolutely.
And Trisha came back. I love that, Dan. Share knowledge. It's how we all win. I love how easy networking is digitally. So many great ideas shared seamlessly. That's so right.
Right.
Jeff saying, you're so right. People are learning about supply chain.
Right.
It's been pretty fun to explain to our industry and other people instead of trying to explain what a freight broker is. Yeah, it's so true. And I mean, when you see like CNBC, CNN, CBC, and all these news, like supply chain is everywhere today.
Right.
And
Uh, it's
I know we're running a little long, and I know we're trying to keep it to 30 minutes here. John, in closing, what would be some suggestions you can give to a sales rep out there really looking to connect? Because we talked a lot about relationships, right, today. And the thing about relationships is so many people still today is, I understand it's a relationship, but how do I build that relationship? Like John talks about relationships, and if you want to help John with his supply chain, it's about relationships. But how would one go about building relationships in today's market?
that's a real good question. Obviously, my dog has an opinion. Uh, Basically, it's kind of twofold. There's, like I said, this, we're constantly bombarded by media and constantly bombarded by sales calls, and just the days are just whirring by at rapid speed. You need something that's going to catch somebody's attention, and that could be a statement, hey, I can help you with your problem out in LA, or that could be, I had one guy ask me, it was kind of funny. It just caught me on the wrong thing. It's a LinkedIn. He says, so how did a handsome guy like you wound up in logistics? And I responded to him. I told him I lost a bet. And he said he about spit his coffee all over his keyboard. So it's just something just to catch. And then once you get that catch, then you just start building the conversation. I've actually in the younger sales guys and gals, the one thing I'll tell them to do is, I'll give them a homework assignment. I said, okay. I said, go check out my company, find out what my company does. I said, tell me something I don't know about my company. And then also, if you can figure out a pain point, bring that to the table. And usually it's interesting because most of them, walk off in a huff because they don't want to do the homework. I had a kid out in Chattanooga who actually did the homework and came back, and we set up a Teams call. And I'm actually mentoring him now. So it's you got to do the homework. You got to figure it out. You got to separate yourself from everybody else. A lot of people today just don't want to do the extra work. They just want, we always, to your Amazon point, we always want instant gratification with little effort. And those who are going to go the extra mile are going to be the ones who are going to step above the rest. And that, that brings, to me, that tells me that you're not just dialing for dollars. Okay. You're not just, sitting there in an office consuming the oxygen. You actually care. You actually want to know, it's just like I said, like going on that job interview. You want the job. If you want the job, you got to do what you got to do to get the job. And you got to understand there's a ton of competition out there too who also want that job. So,
yep. I apologize. That original question, I thought it was actually Jeff that had said it. It's Ryan, and then Ryan says one last question. Ryan's trying to keep us going here, John.
Keep us going.
Ryan says one last question. How many suppliers have you added in the last year?
Probably not a whole lot. We really went after our critical items. We went after packaging. We went after some proteins, and of course fries. But mainly those. I mean, it's I can probably get mustard packets anywhere. If I really want to. There's stock items. So, and then pickles and jalapenos and stuff like that just don't move as fast. But it's our key critical items that you don't go into a burger restaurant and not have burgers. So, or you don't have fries, or you're running a complete drive-through and you pour your soda in your customers' hands at the drive-through because you don't have cups. They tend to get a little upset about that. I'm not sure why.
Especially when you're getting snow.
Yeah. So it's you just go after the higher volume stuff, and you just make sure you got it shored up as best you can. And in some instances you can do that, and some instances you're just kind of tied to what you got and you have to deal with it.
So how many logistics suppliers have you added in the last, call it 12 to 24 months?
I'd say probably a handful, maybe.
Okay. So there's room, and I understand where Ryan's coming from with the question.
I was going to say
he's trying to identify where the room is in industries for new people to come in with possibly better ideas, maybe more creative ideas, maybe a different approach to what's happening in your market right now, right?
Right. No, I completely understand. You're going to look for a partner. I look for long term. Mm-hmm. I don't want to be changing trucks every week. That's a pain. Yes. And you got a learning curve, and that's a pain. I mean, it's not to say I don't add on new carriers, because I do, because you got to keep that pipeline alive. But if I can get a long-term partnership, you also want to keep that continuous improvement. I mean, our customers ask, what have you done for us lately? We're going to ask you, what have you done for us lately? Mm-hmm. You want somebody who's going to come in and who's going to see a process and say, hey, if we do X, Y, and Z, we can we can speed up your transit times, or we can cut your costs down without impacting our margins. So you want somebody who's continuously doing that, because, I mean, we've got to earn our customers' business every day. And our carriers and our vendors and our distributors, they've got to earn ours every day. So it doesn't stop just because you get the load, or you get the lane, or you get the business. That's just the beginning.
Yeah.
It's if you want to be long term, if you want to be short term, then yeah, that one loader, that one lane is all you're going to get. But if you want to be long term, and I'll leave you with this because I actually in the many jobs I've had in my life, I actually worked for a fourth PL, uh, working on site at Cummins Diesel, and my boss uh, told me a long time ago, and this has really stuck with me. He said it's easier to cut off a finger than it is an arm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
You
you
know,
go out
it,
and be the arm or the leg.
mhm. I've
Yes,
got one
sir.
last question for you, John, because you brought up a valid point, and it's something I've often talked about. Um, when you bring on a new supplier, a new carrier, a new logistics
I'm
partner,
so glad you're bringing this
um,
up.
it's more work for you because you
Yeah.
have to train them, you have to educate them, you have to bring them into your world.
Yep.
And I don't think a lot of sales reps put that function together. That I go to John and I have a great relationship. John goes to bring me in. There's actually more work on the back end for John in order to bring me in, get me set up properly. So because obviously if you're going to bring somebody in, you want them to win. You want to win by making the decision. How much time do you figure that takes for you?
That's a good question. If you factor in their learning curve, it's probably going to be, depending on the velocity of the business, it's going to be probably 3 to 6 months. The one thing we've tried to do,
Wow.
I've tried to do at every company I've worked for, regardless of what we were shipping, is I would come up with what I would call a cheat sheet because that's the generation I grew up in. We had cheat sheets in high school.
Yeah.
Uh, so basically, we would try to list everything that we had experienced with new carriers because they just didn't know. So we come up with a document or a set of documents that says, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that. Oh yeah, remember here's the gate code, whatever little niche stuff that you think you tell them, but you really don't. So we basically came up with an orientation document, is what it is, and it doesn't cover everything, but it covers the majority of it. And then as we experience new orientation challenges with carriers, we add to that list. So the next carrier that gets onboarded gets a better cheat sheet than the one before that.
Mhm.
And that pays off in spades because a lot of times, in my personal opinion, shippers don't always set their carriers up to succeed. They may have the best of intentions, but they never do. And the carrier fails, and then they always, typically you blame the last guy in the relay race for losing when it's not
And
necessarily.
vice versa as well.
And
Yeah.
so it's I find I'm very selfish. I want my carriers to succeed because if my carriers succeed, then I succeed. So I'm going to do everything in my power. I'm going to give them every piece of information I possibly can. I'm going to set them up to succeed because I don't want to deal with the heartache and heartburn of loads getting missed. Plus, to your point earlier, I come into these companies now after so many years of experience. I've got a reputation. These
Mhm.
guys, my companies that hire me expect me to give them a level of service and ROI. And the last thing in the world I want to have happen is a senior leader doubting my ability because of my choice of carrier.
There
That
it
to
is.
me is
That.
one of the most powerful things we talked about today.
Yes.
Literally one of the most powerful.
A-
Trisha says,
Absolutely.
"Amen, my friend. I get to choose who I do business with as well." And I think Trisha, 1,000%.
And that's
If
why Dan's
we
teaching talks about customer profile. Man, John
100%.
is everybody who listens to this show's customer profile. A knowledgeable guy who cares about the industry and isn't just shopping price. He never said, I just look for the lowest rate," like some of the shippers out there do. He wants somebody who has knowledge, who cares about it as much as he does, guys. He's telling you. These are who we're looking for.
Some,
Jeff
some,
says, I don't fire
Sometimes.
carriers, carriers fire themselves. And you know what? I've always said sales brings in the customer, but goal achievement keeps the customer. And if we as sales reps and our ops team, our company, everything we do is focused on customer goal achievement, you'll always keep the customer. Because I think honestly, John, if I come in and I work with you and I fully understand what you're looking for, and we have that communication, we have that partnership, every decision we make is with that goal as the main objective.
Right.
And if we don't have that, we lose. And been there, done that. Months working on customers, thinking I'm helping them achieve their goal, because I never really did. But hey, customer B before them, that was their goal. So that must be customer A's goal. I mean, it's got to be. Everybody's the same. And you lose them, and you say, you go back and go, okay, what did I understand? Like, because every customer I
weren't
lost, I
listening.
did this kind of, I did a loss conversation for the ones that would talk to me. And, and it was like, well, I was looking after this, not this, but you kept going towards that. So I think, again, that communication, what we talked about with your team and everybody being on the same page. If we're not on the same page, every decision we make could be two ships passing in the night and not
Right.
even knowing the other one's there. You know what I mean?
And
John, thank you so much for being here. I know we're running way beyond schedule here, but it was just such an awesome conversation. I would love to have you back in a couple of months just to kind of see where you're at and what relationships you're dealing with now. DJ, do you have a quote to bring us out for today?
Of course. And I'll tell you, I had this picked even before we talked, but I had a feeling, John. I had a feeling. I knew what you were about, and I couldn't have picked a better one. So Henry Ford, guys, again, if you are just catching this, or if you're catching this late and you see this on YouTube, like us or subscribe down so you don't miss us, or on LinkedIn. So it's by Henry Ford, and it is Coming Together is a Beginning, Keeping Together is Progress, Working Together is Success.
That is awesome. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
We have to work together. It's a team.
100%. And remember, guys, every Monday, 9 a.m. Eastern, Sales Chatter. Join us, follow us. When you follow us, you'll get notified that we go live. We got a lot of people. Great stuff. Good stuff, gents. Great show today. Great show. John, that was all you, my friend. It was all you.
Appreciate you having me, man.
Thank you, John.
It's a great conversation.
I loved it.
Thanks.